Welcome to Lost Relation Chronicles. I had planned to surprise my wife Lauren with lunch that afternoon. She was 34, a college lecturer, and had told me she would be on campus for the day I worked as an IT consultant, mostly remote, which gave me the flexibility to come and go. As I pleased that day, I decided to swing by the house thinking it would be a sweet, spontaneous gesture. Instead, I walked straight into a nightmare as I stepped inside. I heard laughter, hers and a man's. My stomach twisted into knots. Carefully I moved down the hallway, stopping just out of sight. The living room came into view, and there she was sitting on the couch, a wine glass in hand. Legs tucked under her, like she didn't have a care in the world. Next to her was a man I had never seen before, lounging like he belonged there. His posture was too relaxed, too familiar. Then I heard it, "He's so clueless." Lauren laughed, swirling her wine. Her affair partner chuckled. "Yeah, it's kind of funny to be honest. He probably thinks you're at work half the time, huh?" "Oh, please," she smirked, taking a slow sip. "He wouldn't even know what to do if he caught me. He's too soft, too trusting." She leaned in, resting her head on his shoulder. "That's what makes this so easy." My hands clenched into fists, but I stayed rooted to the spot. My heart pounded in my chest, but it wasn't rage that took over. It was something far colder, far sharper. I had always thought if I ever caught my wife cheating, I would explode, maybe yell demand. Answers make a scene, but standing there listening to them mock me, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just clarity. She thinks I'm clueless. She has no idea what's coming. I turned around and walked right back out the door, my heart pounding but not. With rage, it was something else. Something colder. If I had stormed in there, if I had confronted her right then and there, I would have given her exactly what she expected. A fight drama, maybe even tears. But I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. No, if I was going to ruin her, I needed proof, so instead I did something much smarter. I pulled out my phone and called a private investigator. "Yeah," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I need you to find out everything about my wife's affair. I want proof, photos, texts, videos, everything." That night I went home and lay beside her in bed, staring at the ceiling while she slept peacefully, completely unaware that the ground beneath her was already crumbling. It was the best decision of my life. For the next week I went about life as if nothing had changed. Lauren had no idea that I knew she still kissed me goodbye in the mornings, still sent me sweet messages during the day, messages I knew she was probably typing while lying in bed with him. And I played my part flawlessly. Every smile, every love, you too, every casual touch. It was all an act. Meanwhile, the PI was doing his job, and he was thorough. Photos of them together at restaurants, parked in dark corners, sneaking into hotels. Screenshots of their texts, sickening. Sweet nothings, explicit promises, even hotel confirmations, and the crown jewel, a full video of them at a restaurant kissing at the table like they had no care in the world. And the best part, Lauren had no idea I had all of it. She still thought she was safe. That's what made this so satisfying, because I wasn't just planning to divorce her, I was planning to destroy her, and when I finally confronted her, I wanted to see the exact moment her world crumbled. A week later, it was time. Lauren came home, like nothing was wrong, tossing her bag onto the couch, already scrolling through her phone as she walked in. She didn't even glance at me. I was already sitting at the kitchen table, a thick manila folder in front of me, my fingers lightly tapping against the cover. "Hey babe, what's up?" she asked, still distracted, barely acknowledging my presence. "Come here," I said, my tone even. Something in my voice must have caught her attention, because she hesitated. She frowned slightly but walked. Over her thumb, still lazily scrolling on her screen, I slid the folder across the table. "Open it." She sighed dramatically, rolling her eyes. "Alan, I had a long day. Can this? Why open it?" My voice was firm. Not loud, not angry, just absolute. She exhaled in irritation, but grabbed the folder. The moment she flipped it open, I saw the exact second she realized her life was over her face, drained of color as her fingers tightened around the page's. Photo after photo, Her and her affair partner at dinner, sneaking into a hotel, sitting too close in his car, screenshots of texts from her phone, sickeningly sweet messages, explicit exchanges, even hotel confirmations. I watched her breathing grow uneven, her fingers shaking slightly as she turned each page as if hoping one of them wouldn't be real. Her eyes flicked up to me, wide and panicked. Where did you get these?" I leaned back in my chair, completely calm. That doesn't matter. Silence, then like clockwork. She let out a dramatic sigh and set the folder down, and just like that, she slipped into manipulation mode. "Look, Alan, I was going to tell you," she said, tilting her head slightly, trying to look remorseful. I almost laughed. "Oh yeah, when before or after your next hotel meetup?" She winced, but only for a second. Then she recovered, putting on that same practiced look she always used when she wanted something. "Alan, She sighed, folding her arms. "I haven't been happy for a long time. Here we go, you're a great guy, but I need more." Her voice softened as if that would make a difference. "I think we should just end this like adults." Then she smiled. "I'm really glad you're handling this like a real man," and just like that, she thought she had won. She thought I would quietly sign the divorce papers and let her walk away unscathed. She thought she would get to start over free of consequence. She had no idea what was coming. Lauren was a college lecturer. She always bragged about how her students adored her, about how they saw her as more than just a teacher. She even had a WhatsApp group chat with them, sharing assignments, updates, even personal advice. I knew immediately how I was going to destroy her. Step 1. Secure their phone numbers over the next few days. I worked carefully, discreetly. I memorized the student numbers from her WhatsApp group one by one, locking them into my phone. I even found her class-attended sheets, just in case. Lauren always underestimated me. She thought I wasn't paying attention. She thought I was clueless. She had no idea that I was already setting the stage for her downfall. Step 2. Create a separate WhatsApp group. I made an identical group chat, but this time I was the admin. Every single one of her students was added. Except for her, it was almost too easy. She had done most of the work for me, gathering all these students in one place, building trust with them, making them see her as their mentor, and that's what made this plan so perfect, because when the time came, she wouldn't just lose her marriage. She'd lose the image she had so carefully crafted for herself. Step 3. The perfect moment. I didn't want to just send the evidence randomly. No, that would have been too simple, too easy. I wanted to wait until it would hit the hardest. I needed a moment where she felt the most secure, the most in control, only for it all to come crashing down. So I waited the day before court. Lauren still thought she was winning after I confronted her with the evidence. She hadn't cried, hadn't begged, hadn't even tried to deny it. She had looked me dead in the eye, smirked and said, "You're handling this like a real man." Translation? She thought I was weak. She thought I'd quietly sign the divorce papers, agree to a fair settlement, and let her walk away with her reputation intact. She had no idea that her world was about to be ripped apart, and the best part, she was going to do it to herself. Lauren walked into the courtroom with a smug expression, as if this was just another lecture she was giving. She wore a fitted gray blazer. Her makeup was minimal but polished, and she had that confident professor look, the one she always used when she wanted people to take her seriously. She thought she had me figured out. She thought I was just a heartbroken husband, looking for closure. She thought today would be a formality, a quick settlement, a clean break. Then, the judge asked me to present my case without a word. I slid a thick binder onto the desk in front of me. Lauren barely glanced at it until my lawyer opened it. The judge pushed his glasses up his nose and flipped through the pages, his face giving nothing away. Page after page, photo evidence of her meetups with her affair partner, screenshots of their explicit messages, financial records, proving she had used our joint funds for her dates, their hotels, their little vacations. I didn't just have proof of infidelity, I had proof of marital fraud. I heard the sharp intake of breath beside me. Lauren shifted in her chair, her hands clenched into fists for the first time since walking into that courtroom. She looked at me and I smiled because that was the moment she realized it. She wasn't getting a dime, the moment she knew she lost Mrs. Carter. The judge's voice rang out firm and decisive, given the overwhelming evidence of infidelity and misuse of joint funds. You are not entitled to alimony or any assets from your spouse. Lauren sat up straighter, her confidence cracking like shattered glass. Her mouth parted slightly, blinking once-twice, as if trying to process the words. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Her lawyer leaned, in whispering urgently, but she wasn't even listening. She was too stunned. This was the moment she realized she had played herself. She thought she had me figured out, thought she could manipulate me, gaslight me, walk away unscathed. She never once considered that I would fight back, that I would be smarter than her, but I had planned everything perfectly the night before. I had taken the PI's evidence, not just for court, but for something bigger. Because Lauren's biggest weakness wasn't just her infidelity, it was her reputation. She had built herself up as the cool professor, the one who understood her students, who joked about life, gave them advice, pretended to be their mentor. She had curated this image carefully, the well-respected lecturer, adored by students, praised by faculty. What she didn't know, I had already secured every single one of their phone numbers. I had made a new WhatsApp group with all of her students, except for her. And right before court started, as she sat in front of the judge, completely unaware of what was about to happen, I pressed send screenshots of her affair texts, photos of her sneaking into hotels, a detailed message explaining exactly who she was to ensure maximum damage. I had even tipped off 3 of her most talkative students, instructing them to spread the screenshots to every group chat, every campus board, every online forum, and to keep me updated about every single thing. Lauren walked out of the courthouse, stunned, her face pale, her lips slightly parted as if she still couldn't believe what had just happened. No alimony, no assets, no financial security. She had walked into court thinking she would walk away clean. She walked out with nothing, and she still had no idea that her nightmare was just beginning, because while she was busy getting destroyed in court, her students were already ripping her life apart. Lauren arrived at the college that morning as if nothing had changed, despite losing in court. She probably convinced herself that she could throw on her usual cool professor act, walk into class and move on, but the moment she set foot on campus, she knew something was wrong. The students I had tipped off were more professional than the private investigator I hired. They sent me live updates of everything happening. At first it was subtle. A few students walked past her, whispering, then snickering. Then came full-on laughter. Lauren frowned, pulling out her phone. Hundreds of messages flooded her WhatsApp notifications, but these weren't students reaching out for advice or class updates. They were talking about her. She started walking faster, but the closer she got to her classroom, the worse it got. Heads turned, more whispers. Some pointed, some giggled. Others pulled out their phones, recording her every step. And then she saw it. The first bulletin board papers had been pinned all over it, printed screenshots of her texts with her affair partner, explicit messages, plans for secret hotel meetups. A student had even drawn a giant red arrow pointing to the words, "Meet me at our usual place, baby." Her breath hitched, she froze, her hands clenched around her phone, and then she saw the classroom door. Someone had taken a black marker and scrolled in huge bold letters, "Welcome, cheater." Lauren's hands shook as she grabbed the doorknob, her breath unsteady. She shoved the door open, and the moment she stepped inside, the entire classroom erupted in laughter. Some students smacked their desks. Others were wiping tears from their eyes, laughing so hard they could barely breathe. And then her eyes landed on the whiteboard. Bold red letters, class-scandaled Professor 2, busy cheating. Lauren stumbled back, her vision spinning. This wasn't just embarrassment. This was career-ending. Lauren turned to flee, panic flooding her eyes. Smack! She collided straight into a student. A phone was held up right in her face, recording. The boy grinned, eyes gleaming with pure amusement. "Say hi to the camera, Professor." Laughter erupted around her. More phones rose. More students recording. some even posing behind her, throwing up peace signs, acting like this was some kind of group event. Lauren bolted. She shoved past them, nearly tripping over her own feet as she tore down the hallway. The bulletin board flashed. Past her vision, the printed texts and photos burned into her brain, more whispers, more giggles. Some students pretended to take notes, murmuring loudly, "Lesson of the day: how to get caught cheating." Another student leaned against the wall, clapping. Slowly as she passed, "Great performance, Professor." She didn't stop. She couldn't by the time she reached the parking lot. Her legs shook so violently she could barely yank open the door. She collapsed into the driver's seat, her breath coming in harsh, uneven gasps. No job, no dignity, nowhere to hide. And the best part, she still had no idea who did this to her. Lauren gripped the steering wheel, trying to control her breathing. Then her phone buzzed, a single message from me. "You thought I was clueless. Now you have nothing. Enjoy the life you created for yourself." She didn't reply, but I knew she read it, and I knew in that moment she was sitting there in her car, realizing she had just lost everything now for the second story. There's a difference between making a mistake and making a choice. A mistake is accidental, a momentary lapse in judgment, an oversight. A choice, though, that's deliberate, that's intentional. And what my wife Danielle did, that wasn't a mistake. It was a decision, a clear, conscious decision to betray me the moment I saw the bank statement. I knew she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. It started with something small, a random low-balance notification from my bank that was odd. I kept meticulous track of. My finances, every dollar had a purpose. I assumed it was some minor error, a double charge maybe, or a pending transaction I had forgotten about. But when I pulled up my statements, my heart nearly stopped to $42. "This is your transaction." It was flagged as a vehicle purchase. My pulse pounded in my ears as I stared at the screen, trying to process what I was looking at. I knew damn well I hadn't bought a car. And Danielle, she drove a brand new SUV, one that I had already paid for. So who the hell was this for? I clicked on the details, my hands trembling. And then I saw it. Willie Smith, my wife's male best friend. The room felt like it was closing in on me. My vision blurred at the edges as I read the name over and over again, willing it to change to mean something else, but it didn't. It was right there in black and white. Danielle had taken $42. Each of my money and bought a car for another man. I swallowed hard, my throat suddenly dry. My mind raced back over the last 5 years, the late nights, the innocent texts. The way she always laughed just a little too much at Willie's jokes. I had never liked the guy, too comfortable, too familiar, but every time I brought it up, Danielle brushed me off. "You're being paranoid, Bruce," she'd say with that exasperated smile, as if I was some insecure idiot. "Willie's like a brother to me. He's been there for me since before we met. And like an idiot, I let it go because I trusted her, because I never thought she would cross that line. But now I knew the truth. Looking back, the signs were there, little things she had said that didn't sit right. Willie's car is falling apart. Poor thing. I just wish I could help him out. You know, if I had my own money, I'd just buy him a car." Myself at the time, I had shrugged them off. Maybe she was just venting, feeling bad for a friend. But now it was crystal clear she had been testing the waters. She wanted to see how I'd react before she actually did it. And since I never reacted, she went ahead and stole from me to make it happen. My hands were shaking as I set my phone down. But I wasn't angry. Not yet. Anger would come later, once the shock wore off. Once the weight of what she had done truly settled. Right now, I was too focused, too clear-headed. Danielle had made a choice, and now I was about to make mine. I've always believed that when someone shows you who they are, you should believe them. But I didn't just want to believe Danielle was this selfish. I needed to see it. I needed to hear it from her own mouth. Watch the way she reacted. Let her prove to me beyond a shadow of a doubt that she wasn't the woman I thought I had married. So I didn't yell, I didn't accuse. I didn't slam my fist on the table or demand answers. I just waited. When she finally walked through the door that night, laughing at something on her phone, I didn't hesitate. I kept my voice light, my expression unreadable. "Hey, Danielle, did you buy someone a car?" She barely looked up, tossing her bag onto the couch like it weighed nothing. Then she shrugged. Oh yeah, that was it. No hesitation, no concern, no guilt. Like she had just picked up a carton of milk from the store. I stared at her, waiting for something. An explanation. An apology. A damn flinch. But she just sighed, walked over and pressed a kiss to my cheek like she hadn't just stolen $42. €0 from me. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. Relax, babe. You'll make it back. She actually rolled her eyes like I was being ridiculous. Like I was overreacting, like I was some penny-pinching husband who needed to be reminded that money isn't everything. That was the moment. Right then and there, I stopped seeing Danielle as my wife and started seeing her as a problem to solve. I took a slow, measured breath, forcing myself to stay calm. My voice came out, smooth, almost amused. So let me get this straight. I said you took my money, bought Willie a car, and didn't think you should tell me. She tilted her head, genuinely confused. Why would I? She asked. Like the thought had never even crossed her mind. I mean, it's just money, Bruce. It's not like you're struggling. I actually laughed. Not because any of this was funny, but because she had no idea what she had just done to herself. I could have lost it right then and there. I could have told her exactly how badly she had messed up, but instead I just smiled. You know what I said? Shaking my head, you're right, it's just money. Her shoulders relaxed, she thought I was letting it go. She had no idea I was already ending the marriage in my head, that I was already thinking about how to destroy her. She grinned, smug and satisfied. See, I knew you'd understand. Oh, sweetheart, you have no idea. The first thing I did, I cut off her access to my money. Danielle had no idea how much I had let her roam free financially, how much I had trusted her with how much control she had over my account, simply because I never imagined she would steal from me, but now I moved swiftly. I removed her from all joint accounts. I canceled her credit cards. I transferred assets into protected accounts. She couldn't touch, and the best part, I made sure none of it triggered an alert, because Danielle never checked balances. She just swiped and assumed it would go through. That was the thing about Danielle. She never worried about money. Because she had never had to, as far as she was concerned. The accounts were bottomless, the cards would always work, and the balance would always be high. She had no idea I had already cut her off. So when she went to swipe for something expensive, expecting it to clear like it always did, that's when the fun would begin. But that was just the start. The next step even more satisfying. Danielle thought she had secured a win for Willie, thought she had pulled off some grand gesture of generosity, her money her choice, but what she didn't realize was that she hadn't actually bought that car for Willie I had, or at least that's what the paperwork said, because in her arrogance, in her absolute certainty that she could do whatever she wanted with my money, she had made a mistake. The car was in my name, which meant I had every right to take it back. So I hired a repossession company and gave them everything. The make, model, VIN number, even the exact address where Willie parked it. I made it easy for them. And within 24 hours, Willie's brand new ride gone. Danielle had no idea. She was still walking around, still smiling, still thinking she had won. Meanwhile, I wasn't just planning to leave her. I was planning to make sure she got nothing over the next few days. I worked quietly, methodically. I documented everything. Screenshots of her messages about the car transaction, records of every single unnecessary thing she had ever spent my money on, receipts, bank statements, timestamps, all of it. I wanted my case airtight when I filed for divorce. I wanted to walk into that courtroom with a mountain of proof, so overwhelming that there wouldn't be a single argument she could make in her defense. And still Danielle had no clue she was clueless, as she laughed over cocktails with Willie, oblivious as she posted selfies and gushed about how much she loved spoiling her bestie. She even had the audacity to caption one of her photos, "Nothing better than spoiling your bestie." Blessed Loyalty matters. I just smiled when I saw it, because tomorrow she was going to find out exactly what loyalty really meant while she was out, still basking in the delusion that she was untouchable. I was dismantling her entire life, piece by piece, brick by brick. She just didn't know it yet, but the moment she woke up, she would, and it would hit her like a freight train. 6:45 a.m. It started with the garage. Danielle had a routine every morning. She strutted outside for yoga gym bag in hand, sunglasses perched on her head like she was some kind of high-class influencer. She played the part, well, head held high, sipping on an overpriced smoothie, waving to her friends like she was untouchable. But today was different. Today she stepped outside and found nothing. Her car was gone, not stolen, not misplaced, just missing. I was upstairs sipping my coffee, waiting for the frantic footsteps, the door swinging open, and then Bruce. I didn't move, didn't even look up, just took another slow sip of coffee, letting the silence stretch. Seconds later, she came storming in, face pale, phone clutched in a death grip. Where the hell is my car? I finally looked at her, blinked, as if I was just now noticing her standing there, then as calmly as I could, I set my coffee down and said one simple word. Repossessed. She blinked once, twice, then she laughed a real laugh like I had just told her a joke like this wasn't real. What she scoffed, shaking her head, "You're messing with me." I didn't blink, didn't react. "It's gone, Danielle." I said, my voice even, just like my money. That wiped the smile right off her face. 6:50 a.m. Her expression twisted first with disbelief, then with growing anger. "You're kidding, right? This is some dumb joke," she snapped. I just shook my head. "Nope." She scoffed and yanked out her phone. I already knew what she was doing, checking her bank app. Watching her was like watching a car crash in slow motion. Predictable and inevitable and right on cue, there it was, the sharp, gasping inhale. She muttered, fingers flying across the screen. Her breathing turned shallow, her eyes darting across the display as she flipped through her accounts, then her gaze snapped to me wide and filled with something I hadn't seen in years. Pure raw panic. "Bruce, what did you do?" I leaned back in my chair, relaxed, calm, watching her like she was some kind of insect pinned under glass. Then in the most casual tone possible, I said, "I cut you off." She let out a short, breathy laugh, but this time it wasn't amused. It was hysterical. You can't do this, Bruce. We're married." I tilted my head slightly. "Are we?" And then, as if just remembering something, I reached into the drawer beside me and pulled out a manila envelope. I slid it across the counter, letting my fingers linger on it for just a second before letting go. "Here," I said smoothly. "You might want to read that." Her hands trembled as she grabbed it, fingers fumbling over the edges. The second her eyes landed on the title page, her mouth dropped open. "Divorce petition." She stumbled back like the papers had burned her. "No," she whispered then, again more desperately. "No, no, no." She clutched the pages to her chest like holding them tighter could somehow make them disappear. Then she looked up at me, her face shifting between shock and denial. "You're overreacting," she pleaded. "We'll fix this." I took another slow sip of my coffee, savoring the taste. The silence the moment there's nothing to fix. She shook her head violently, refusing to accept reality. Then, without warning, she lunged from my arm, gripping it tight. "Bruce, listen to me," she begged. "It's just a freaking car. It's not that serious." I yanked my arm away, shaking off her touch like it was nothing. "You're right," I said, leaning in just enough for my next words to hit like a bullet. "It's not that serious. That's why you can go ask Willie to pay your bills now." And just like that, her face crumbled because she knew. She knew Willie wasn't going to do a damn thing for her 7A. Danielle spun away from me, her fingers already moving as she grabbed her phone again. I knew exactly who she was calling. Willie, the same guy she had stolen from me to help the same guy she had been posting selfies with just last night, she put. the phone to her ear pacing back and forth like a caged animal. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. I actually smirked. Willie had blocked her, Danielle's face contorted disbelief flashing across her features. She tried again, same result. Then she tried texting him the second she saw that little not delivered error. She lost it 7:05 a.m. Oh my God, Danielle's phone slipped from her fingers, landing on the counter with a dull clatter. Both hands shot up to her hair, gripping it as she sucked in frantic, uneven breaths. She was spiraling, and I just stood there, arms crossed, watching, because I knew exactly what was happening in her head. Reality was crashing down, her money gone, her security gone, her best friend gone, and for the first time in her life she was completely, utterly alone. 7:10 a.m. She turned back to me, her eyes glassy with tears. For a second, she just stood there, swallowing hard, searching for something, anything to latch onto. Then in a last, desperate attempt, she whispered, "Bruce, please. Just let's talk, okay?" I tilted, my head unimpressed. "Talk about what?" Her voice cracked. "Us fixing this. I swear I'll change." I didn't even hesitate. "No, you won't." She let out a shaky breath, her hands clenching into fists. "Bruce, I love you." That's when I smiled, and then, in the coldest, most final tone I had ever used, I said the last words I would ever speak to her. "No, you love my money." I grabbed my keys off the counter and walked out, leaving her standing there, shattered, alone, drowning in the wreckage of her own. Making a normal person would have taken the loss and moved on. But Danielle, she wasn't just entitled. She was delusional, and nothing proved that more than what she did next. I was at my lawyer's office, finalizing the last details of the divorce, when my phone buzzed a text. "Danielle, you think you've won, but you'll regret this. See you in court." I actually laughed because I'd already prepared for this. She thought she was about to make some grand comeback, some dramatic reversal, where she'd walk away with half of everything I owned, but in reality she was about to get publicly, legally humiliated. The day of the court hearing, I walked in feeling calm, in control. Danielle, on the other hand, she looked furious, like she had spent the past week screaming into a pillow. Her eyes were sharp, her jaw tight, and every movement radiated, barely contained. Rage she wasn't here to settle. She was here to win, and that was her first mistake. Her lawyer stood up, first adjusting his tie with the air of a man who thought he had a solid case. "Your Honor, my client has been unfairly stripped of her financial security. She contributed to this marriage and is entitled to spousal support. Mr. Carter deliberately sabotaged her by cutting her off with no warning. We are requesting a fair division of assets, as is her legal right." I almost felt bad for the guy, because the moment my lawyer stood up, she ripped their case apart like tissue paper. "Your Honor," my lawyer began, flipping open her file. "The prenuptial agreement is clear. Mrs. Carter has no legal claim to my client's finances. Furthermore, she has never held employment during the marriage, nor has she made any financial contributions to the household. Additionally, we have extensive records proving reckless spending on luxury items, as well as clear evidence that she diverted large sums of my client's money to another man." The judge's expression darkened at that last part, a man who, I should add, has since cut off all contact with Mrs. Carter. Danielle shifted in her seat, her face draining of color. "My lawyer didn't stop there, Your Honor. Given the circumstances, it is evident that Mrs. Carter is not entitled to any financial support. In fact, my client is well within his rights to pursue reimbursement for the misallocated funds." Danielle's lawyer looked like he had swallowed a lemon. He barely had a response. The judge didn't even take long to deliberate. He barely even looked at Danielle before speaking the words that sealed her fate. "Mrs. Carter, your claim is denied," just like that, in under 10 minutes. She sat there completely frozen, like she had just realized she was never winning this. Danielle turned to her lawyer, her voice barely above a whisper. "That's it." He didn't even look at her, just shrugged and kept packing up his briefcase, because there was nothing else to argue, nothing left to fight for. She had walked into this courtroom believing she could manipulate the system, The same way she had manipulated me for years, but the law didn't care about crocodile tears, it cared about facts, and the facts were simple. She had nothing. I exhaled slowly, stood up and buttoned my suit jacket with practiced ease, then without so much. As a glance in her direction, I walked right past her. I didn't stop. I didn't slow down. I didn't say a single word, because Danielle wasn't worth another second of my time. The next time I heard about her, she was living in a tiny apartment barely, scraping by the woman who once draped herself in designer clothes and looked down on people who live paycheck to paycheck had now become one of them. Her so-called friends gone, turns out, when the money dried up. So did their loyalty, not a single. One of them stuck around, and the cherry on top, she had to get a job for the first time in years. And what was it? A customer service rep. The same woman who once rolled her eyes at the very idea of working was now stuck answering phone calls for a living karma doesn't miss. Months later, I was at my desk skimming through emails when my phone buzzed a text. Danielle, I miss you, Bruce. Can we just talk? I stared at it for a second, then without hesitation, I deleted it. Because Danielle was just another bad investment, and I never waste time on sunk costs. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comment section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.